Hello, everyone. Just wanted to make sure everyone hears me okay. I'm going to keep the group chat open here for a while, just to make sure that you don't have any problems in hearing me or with anything else that I can help you with. Can someone just confirm to me that you guys hear me okay? Okay, excellent. Great. Well, then let's get going. So welcome to the Recruitment ABC for Tech Startups webinar. My name is Sofia Pohls, and I will be guiding you through the webinar today. This webinar is focused on how to hire software developers, especially, and why is this? Why are we talking about especially about software developers? Is that as most of you know, the market situation for software developers is quite tricky at the moment. So according to EECO, we're missing about 700 to 900 developers at the moment. 7,000 to 9,000 developers, and in 2020 we're even maybe missing about 20,000 developers. So obviously this means that there is a great lack of talent in the Finnish market, and that's why getting your recruitment efforts right when hiring software developers is so crucial. The other fact about the market is that we do have quite many unemployed developers in the market, but they many of them possess the wrong skill set. So you know, the technologies they're working with or the kind of solutions they have been building, there's just simply not enough need for those skills. So one factor here is also that we're missing quite a lot of this, like transforming education that would make their skills relevant for the market. So apparently everyone is hearing me okay. There are no problems. So I will just close the group chat now and open it again once we get to the towards the end of the webinar to the Q&A. Great. All right, so let's move forward. So for the agenda for today, I'm just going to quickly introduce myself and the company that I work for. Then we're going to talk about why focusing on hiring is crucial for startups. So why you should put hiring on your agenda as a startup. Then we're going to talk about how do you attract the best talent, and especially I'm going to give some tips for startups to hire the best talent and how you can compete with, let's say, the bigger organizations and the corporates. And then we're going to talk a little bit about where and how to find software developers, and also about the selling points and you know, like what is the right approach for them. We're going to discuss salary levels, and in the end we're going to have a little Q&A. So my name is Sofia Pohls. I'm the CEO and co-founder of recruiting consulting company Finder Seekers. We are a startup ourselves, so you know, we were just founded last May, but we have been growing quite fast, and are 7 people at the moment in the team doing everything from like consulting different size companies about their recruitment. My well, I have quite long experience in the IT field. I've been working as a recruiting advisor and strategic leader, and especially in the field of direct search with IT professionals. And I've been working with plenty different companies, so anything from startups to stock listed companies, and with various different needs when it comes to recruitment. My education background is that I'm actually a lawyer and a yoga instructor. So those two, I guess, go very well hand in hand. And yeah, so a little bit about Finder Seekers. As I already said, we are a team of very seasoned IT recruitment professionals, and we're pretty much the first Finnish company specialized in recruiting strategy for tech companies. And we are offering our customers like very holistic recruiting consulting. So anything from, you know, like defining your talent strategies all the way to like really attracting the best talent and finding them and contacting them and so on. Great. Yeah, so, you know, why focusing on hiring is crucial for startups. So as you probably have heard about this, that there was a war between talent and the companies, and talent won. So maybe everyone has heard this statement at some point. Well, let me tell you, this is true. So how the market has changed now is that companies who used to be the choosers, who got like 100 application and could choose the 5 best that they wanted, or the one best person or talent that they wanted, this is not the case anymore when it comes to hiring software developers and technical people. The thing is that from talent, so as talent one, they actually became the choosers. So now there is such a big lack of software developers and other like tech people overall, that the tech people can really choose where they want to work. And this means for companies that they need a new strategy on how to attract the best talent in the market. Obviously, we all know that great people make great teams, right? And great teams make great products. And this is true in every single setup that you have. So that's why people are so crucial. It's very hard to drive innovation without the innovative people who are going to deliver those products. And obviously, what this means for startups is that you really need to put some effort in hiring. Getting your funding round is great, and you will feel super happy about it. You have that money now, but it doesn't mean that you'll automatically get developers, because everyone is fighting for the same developers. So it's not only you getting the funding and being like, yeah, great, now let's start hiring. It's also the corporations, the more established startups. Everyone is hiring for the same talent. And funnily, I always tell all the clients that I have is that basically every single company in this world nowadays is a tech company in one way or the other. Everyone has at least website, right? So what we can say is that job advertising is dead. Job advertising is not working anymore for software developers as it used to back in the days. So posting that one job out there where you're looking for software developers does not bring you any more those 50 to 100 applicants that you can choose from. In marketing and sales, we have moved towards inbound strategies. So rather than just putting your outbound efforts all the time out, so doing, for example, in sales, let's say, cold calling or emailing and so on, we're trying to combine both inbound and outbound methods. So if inbound marketing is complete stranger to you, it means that you're trying to educate your market and create touch points for your target audience so that they can find information about your company. So you try to create awareness and then slowly converting those people who get to know your company into leads that your sales organization can then nurture. But we are wondering, why has this not happened when it comes to recruiting? Why in recruiting the job ad is still our only weapon that we're using? Why are we not creating inbound recruitment strategies? And what we at Finder Seekers believe is that recruitment should go more towards inbound. So what we should also do is that we need to create those touch points in advance. And we need to really acknowledge that recruitment is attraction, recruitment is sales, recruitment is bringing your organization forward and telling people about it, creating the awareness. Especially when it comes to startups, this can be very tricky because obviously it might be that you have just established your startup and that there are, people just don't necessarily know so much about your company. So what you need to do is that first you need to create those touch points where they get to know your company. So whatever it is, for example, for let's say software developers, what are they looking for? What are they Googling? They're Googling solutions for their problems. So if they have a problem, let's say with their code, they're looking for answer. How can I solve this issue? And what that means is that if I were a co-founder in a tech startup, obviously we are a tech startup as well in a way, but we don't employ any software developers. What I would do is that I would engage all my software developers in being active in the platforms where other software developers hang out. So let's say GitHub, Stack Overflow, and to really put your code there so other people can find it. So then obviously, like, first you bring this awareness to your target group. So you tell them about, you educate them that this company exists and there are these developers. Then what you want to do next is start nurturing those leads. Okay, great. So now we know about this company X. What do they want to know next is how it is to work in a company X. So obviously, then you need to provide them also a little bit more information that is targeted to their target group. So you bring them information how it is to work as a software developer in a company X. And then you start converting them into applicants. So then you tell them, hey, like actually now you know our company, you know what we do, you know how it is to work in this company. And now you want to start a conversation with us? Great. It doesn't have to be in the form of job ad like we are typically accustomed to see, but it can be also in other forms. So let's say, hey, connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to start a conversation with you, or whatever it is that you really come up with. The other thing is also that developers are hired more like in days than in weeks or months. So you really don't have time to wait. So you put your job ad out there and then you're waiting for 2 weeks and say, okay, now we have these 20 applicants. Now I'm going to take another 2 weeks to go through these 20 applicants. It just doesn't work that way anymore. There's probably like 1 or 2 of them left if you get any good applicants. And this is why it's crucial to have recruitment conversations ongoing at all times. What this means is, as I'm not sure if Otto Hilska is the founder at Smartly, but anyway, one of the leaders at Smartly, what he was saying in Slush is that in an early stage company, all your leadership body should put 30 to 50% of their time into recruiting the best talent. 30 to 50%, that's a lot of time, right? Maybe you're wondering now, how can we do it? Do we actually have the resources for it? Which is an excellent question. So what I would encourage here for you to do as a startup founder or as the HR of a startup or whatever your position is, that you would start thinking, first of all, in our founding team, in our leadership team, in our company, do we have enough knowledge and skills for hiring? So are there people who have been doing hiring previously? Do we know how to do it, first of all? Second of all, then you start thinking, can I actually dedicate at least 30% of my time into recruiting? So can I really take that 30% and have those continuous conversations with candidates? So what it means is that you need to face the reality, which is that if you want to close a candidate, let's say in 6 months, you need to start to have the conversation now. Because the nurturing phase for the candidate to really get to know your company and to make the decision for them to be able to join your company, to know your brand well enough, to know how you work, you need to nurture for a longer time. So then, when you have made this decision, you know that, okay, do we have enough hiring knowledge? Do we have enough resources? Can we really do this? If the answer is yes, great, then you go for it. You dedicate that time, you have those conversations, you acknowledge who are the people you want to have a conversation with. If not, what you can do is that you can ask, what can I outsource when it comes to recruitment? Should I focus on my core competence? So should I be, for example, building our core product and outsource the recruitment efforts instead? And which parts of the recruitment should I outsource and to whom? So choosing a recruitment partner is another story because it's very crucial. So I would just encourage, don't go for the lowest price, go for the player who can represent your brand, because they are going to be your brand ambassador to potential employees. But anyway, so think really clearly, what are we good at and what are our weaker spots? If we are really good at hiring, we've been doing it in the past, great, do it yourself. It's always great if you can do it yourself. If you feel like recruitment is not your forte, if it's not your strong point, maybe consider outsourcing. All right, great. So how do you attract the best talents? When it comes to defining your talent strategy, you need to start from the very basics. So clarify your vision, your mission, and your culture. And I can give you a little secret here. You don't sell, as a startup, you don't sell corporate benefits. You sell your impact. You sell the impact that you are making to this world. So that is your vision, your mission. You share your culture. And here I just put some examples of companies, that like have a great mission or vision statement and that are really representing like, okay, so what do we do? And they really tell it super clearly. And you as a startup, I encourage everyone who is working with recruitment in your company, clarify together what is your vision, what is your mission, what is your culture. When it comes to culture, I would say that this is probably one of the most important things. And this is why also thinking about hiring is so crucial for startups. The first 3 to 5 hires you make will always define your culture. So let's say you're a founding team now of 3 people and you're going to hire 3 more people. Those people will set your culture. So be careful with who you hire in the first place. Don't only go for the skills, go for the mindset, go for the personality, go for the culture that you want to have in your company. Yes. Also, why it's important to think about culture is that you need to think, what is the culture we want to build? And culture is something that does not come from the leadership. So as said, once you're a company of like, let's say 10 people or more, your culture cannot be defined by what your leadership team wants. Very often I see this, that a lot of like executive boards or leadership teams are saying that this is our culture, this is what we want our culture to be. But to be honest, I'll tell you a secret, culture always comes from the bottom to up. So when you want to know, if you already have a team of like 10 people, go and ask them, if you would have to define our culture in 3 words, what would be the words that you're using? That is your culture. Your culture is what your employees see every day in the office happening. Great. So moving on, how do you attract the best talent? How do you go about your talent strategy? So what do you need to do next? So after you have been defining or clarifying your vision and mission and your culture, you start determining the qualities and requirements for the potential employee. This always starts with business strategy. So when it comes to the qualities and requirements, you start with your business strategy, asking, what is our business strategy? Where do we want to be in, let's say, in 3 years or in 1 year or whatever it is that the time frame that you're talking about? And then the second question that you need to ask is, can we get to where we want to be with the resources that we have at the moment? So this means if the answer is no, we can't get to where we want to be in 3 years with these resources that we currently have, it means that you will be hiring. When it comes to business strategy and defining your talent strategy from your business strategy, you need to be very, very blunt and very frank with yourself. Okay, we want to be entering the Chinese markets in 3 years. This is an example. So let's say our company X wants to expand to Chinese markets in 3 years. They want to attract Chinese consumers aged 18 to 25, for example, with their consumer product. What it means right now, you want to have this in 3 years. It means that you need to start diversifying your team right now. So that's how you take from your business strategy these concrete talent strategies that will then transform into actions. So let's say Chinese market is your place to be. You want to go to Chinese market. and you want to target those consumers aged 18 to 25, you can ask yourself, if we have a team of, like, let's say, Finnish engineers aged 40 to 45, do they really know how to build great consumer products for a Chinese consumer aged 18 to 25? And that's why diversifying is super important typically for expanding companies. But overall, this can be anything. So your business strategy is that you want to build a new product around health and fitness in 1.5 years. You need to start recruiting those health and fitness people now in order for you to be able to build that product in the time frame in the future. All right, great. So now we have defined our business strategy. We know what kind of competencies we need to get from there. And then we need to do the very, very strategic determination of competencies and skills we need in order for us to fulfill the business strategy now and in the future. And this means that you need to really define for yourself, do I need, first of all, okay, this sounds a bit cruel, but do I need brains? Do I need hands? Or do I need someone who will hit the ground running? And this is crucial because if you already have, let's say you're building a software product, and if you already have the architecture, you already know where you're going, you're happy with your plan, you probably need hands to deliver, right? Let's say you're still in the early phase. So you're just thinking, okay, we have this great product idea. We really want to make it happen, but we haven't started anything. We don't really have the technological knowledge in our company. Then you probably need the brains, someone who will figure out how to build the product. This is crucial because this will also determine whether the candidate will be happy in the job or not. So if you know that, let's say, you need someone with a lot of innovation, you need someone who has like great creative skills, who can think outside the box, they're probably not people who will enjoy administrative tasks. If you need someone who will deliver on an existing strategy and who will, for example, you need someone who will really execute plans perfectly according to every single detail, you probably need a little bit more admin type of personality. This is super important because recruiting is typically time consuming and therefore it can become quite expensive. So you want to make sure that you're hiring the right people to the right position. Thirdly, think of the minimum requirements. So think of the very basic minimum requirements. I'll give you an example, and this is an actual job ad. A small town company says you need 7 years in Java and C# languages, proficiency in network programming, scripting, databases, and stuff like experience with large, highly redundant business critical systems all at the same time. Besides this, you are a team player, entrepreneurial mindset, you have great social skills, you know Azure and AWS, and it's also good if you like working with mobile. Both iOS and Android is a plus. Hope you can also have experience in web, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Great if you have Angular and React. Vue is a plus. Is this minimum requirements? Not really. It's like everything that I could ever wish the candidate would have. And what this basically means is that a candidate is looking at the list and is like, I have zero idea what the company is doing because they seem to be doing everything. And second of all, I don't really feel like applying because I know Java like my own pockets. But to be honest, C#, not really. It doesn't mean that the candidate could not learn C#. But obviously, this is an example of strategy that is not working when hiring software developers. When you set the minimum requirements, you are setting the very basics that the candidate needs to have. So let's say if you are building a software, but you don't yet know what is the language that we're going to choose, what is the technology, then maybe the minimum requirement for you is to have a person who has a wide understanding and who can learn new things very fast. But they don't need to be expert in every single thing. It's a very different profile. Let's say you're hiring, you know that your backend is built with like Java, for example. You know that you're going to stick with that technology at least for now. Your minimum requirement is a Java developer, great experience in that. A general rule for startups could be that for startups, it's maybe a little bit more important to think whether you're hiring a specialist or a generalist. And this is because in startups, the plans can change quite fast. Maybe it is crucial for you to really consider, maybe we need a generalist. Maybe we need someone who can also change in the future if we're going to change our plans and our strategy. Okay, so we know our business strategy. We know the competencies and skills do we need. We know the minimum requirements. And then fourthly, we need to think what can we offer and how to make sure people are staying and developing the company longer. So for here, what can we offer? We should always think, is this position a good stretch for the candidate as well? So can we offer the candidate something that will make them grow? You know, these horizontal moves are not always very motivating for candidates. So there should be always about 15 to 30% that the candidate will get to learn in the job. It's especially super crucial when you're hiring these millennials and younger, because for them, the learning opportunities at work are the most important thing. And that's why you need to always make sure that there is something that we can offer that the candidate doesn't always have or doesn't already have. At the same time, another important factor to consider is that the candidate can also add something to your team. So they have something that your team doesn't already have. And this can be from a perspective of their social skills. So let's say your team is already super introverted. Hiring another more introverted person will just keep the team very introverted. Maybe consider hiring someone who is extroverted. So they are bringing some qualities that your team doesn't already have. When it comes to very concrete things, as said, you don't have the corporate benefits and you should not have the corporate benefits. Really, keep it simple and think about the things that are attractive for people who want to work in startups. So startups are a special breed and they are great and they are a super good place for a lot of people who are really excited about working in a startup. And startups have their very unique offering and something that a lot of other companies can never offer. So think about things like stock option possibility. Is there a stock option possibility in our company? Think about how can the candidate develop their own position? Is there an opportunity to develop wider solutions? Is there an opportunity to take ownership? So let's say you're hiring your first software developers. This is a great selling point. If they are joining a corporate with 100 developers, they are probably not going to have too much ownership of the product, right? If they are joining a startup, they probably can take a lot of ownership, even if they join as a developer, as the hands-on person who is doing the job. They can and probably will dig into architecture as well, a little bit on the side. They get to work a little bit with the UI, the UX, because in startups, obviously, you can share the responsibilities a bit more freely than in bigger organizations. One great thing that a lot of startups can offer for software developers is that there is no legacy code. Well, if you have legacy code, sorry, then you can't offer this. But if you don't have any legacy code, mention this. It's great. A lot of software developers like to develop completely new solutions and products. And fourthly, something to consider is, what is your unique offering? What is the impact you are having? How are you changing this world? When this is crystal clear for you, you communicate to the candidate, and if if it resonates with them, they are already so much more engaged with your brand than if you're just talking about the concrete product that you're building. So try to create some emotion as well. All right, great. So we have now done. We have clarified our vision and mission and culture. Then we have determined the skills we need. And thirdly, before you start hiring, clarify your hiring process. Here, I want to encourage you. You don't need any massive software unless you're hiring tons of people. Let's say if you're hiring 10 people per year, maybe consider having an applicant tracking system. But besides this, you don't really need that. Just use whatever tool you already have in use, be it Trello, Asana, Slack, whatever you have. That's just enough, as long as you take care of your GDPR. The most important thing when it comes to hiring process and hiring for startups is that you need to keep certain things in mind. First of all, hiring is a two-way conversation. Hiring is not anymore an interview. It's even a good thing not to invite people for an interview, but to invite them for a meeting. Hey, come and get to know our company. Don't invite them necessarily for an interview. Like, what's the extra value? Come and get to know our company and discuss about job opportunities at us. This means that you need to check that the people who are hiring in your company, do they have the best competence? Do they know how to hire? And do they know how to sell your company? It is crucial because there is a lot of selling involved with hiring nowadays. In order for you to be able to attract that software developer with maybe, let's say, 3 other offers on the table, you need to be able to sell. This means if you're the founder, you have no interest or no practical experience with hiring, how about you ask if there is someone else in the company who can do the first round interviews with the candidates? I encourage you, if you're the CEO, you're the founder, you're the leader in the company, you are the end responsible, so you always have to approve whatever decision is made, but you don't need to be the person who is running all the interviews, who is doing this. Maybe there are people who are more passionate about hiring, who have more experience and competence in doing it. It might be even a great perk for someone who is really into building their own team. So just make sure you are the end responsible always as the founder of the company, but maybe there are some other people who are better at doing this. Second of all, set clear steps for your hiring process. Keep it simple. So just ask yourself, who will interview and when? So as previously mentioned, decide the person and the process that you will have. So whether it will be, okay, we're going to have 2 conversations with the candidate. The first one will be that we invite them for lunch or we invite them to our office. And the second one will be that we'll send them a technical task and then we'll give them an offer or not. Whatever it is that the interview process you want to set for yourself. The most important thing, and I can't stress this enough, is communication. If you remember one thing from this webinar, it's communication. Please just write it down for yourself. It's the most frustrating part for any candidate, is that when they are not kept up to date about what's happening in the process. If you can tell the candidate, okay, send us any kind of I don't know, whatever it is, like a CV, or send us a note saying that you're interested in hearing about opportunities in our company, and we will follow up with you in 48 hours. Oh my God, that's already such an improvement to a lot of companies where you send an application and it will be hanging in their systems for months without any answer. The most important thing is that you communicate with your candidates. This means also that no news is news. So even if you haven't made a decision about who you're going to hire or whether you're going to hire, it's still news to the candidate when you give them a call. It takes honestly 1 minute. You tell them, hey, sorry, the process is taking a little bit longer than we expected. I'll promise to get back to you in, say, 3 days' time. When you tell the candidate when they are going to expect the next step, when they're going to expect to hear from you, and you follow up on when you promise to call them, you have already won the candidate's trust. Recruitment is really about sales. So your consumer brand is also your employer brand. And those people that go through your hiring process, if you offer them a great candidate experience, they might be one day the people who are going to be buying your services, or they might be the people who are going to tell about your services to others. So that's why it's so crucial that you give a great candidate experience. And trust me, people talk to each other. So if you give them a crappy candidate experience, their friends will know about it. And this will influence how they are gonna buy your services in the future, or whether they're gonna consider your company again as an employer. Thirdly, you will get certain questions as a startup, and make sure that you're ready to answer. You will be asked about your finances, so whether you're running on funding or you're profitable, about your vision and mission probably. You're going to be asked about stock options, about your 3-year plan, about the possibilities to develop your own role. It's great to think how can you sell a future vision to the candidate? How can you sell them what they can have in the future and what kind of position is possible for them? And you will be asked about the ownership structure. So just keep this in mind, have the answers ready. Think about it. What gives the candidate the best information they need? All right, and so then, where and how do you find these magical creatures called software developers? Okay, so if I were to hire a software developer for my own company, what I would do is that I would first of all look at my own network. Who are the people I know? So do I know a lot of software developers? Did I go to study with them? Are there any people that could refer me to good software developers? Is there, like, in my Facebook connections, do I have any software developers, or do I know people who work with them? Then I would go through my LinkedIn first connections, obviously, just to see, like, there are always these people that you studied with and you didn't remember necessarily, like their name or how they look like. But then, like, they happen to work as a software developer or lead in a company, and you could ask for recommendations from them. Obviously, where software developers hang out, GitHub, Stack Overflow. They do go to a lot of meetups. So there are great meetups in Helsinki region, in other cities as well, about certain topics. So there are meetups for like DevOps, there are meetups for Java people, for JavaScript people, and so on. Good idea. Send your software developer if you already have one. So it's not necessarily such a nice thing to go there as a founder saying like, hey, I want to recruit. Kind of like, maybe it doesn't create very very nice atmosphere there. But hey, how about you consider hosting a meetup yourself? Offer the beer and the pizza, invite the software developers over, have someone to talk about your solution, or have a friend to talk about DevOps if they're great at DevOps or whatever it is. Just get to know the people. Ask them if they know if anyone is looking for new opportunities in a startup, and so on. And then obviously one thing that you can consider is using a recruitment partner who really understands your needs and is able to sell your brand in a good way and engage with the target audience. All right, and so how do you attract software developers? So I just want to give some hints about like how or what is like important for software developers when it comes to like providing information. If nothing else, you can probably use this as a sort of job ad template if you want for yourself, or have career page in your website and define these things in your career website, or whatever these touch points that you want to create for your software developer audience are. But these are things that are typically very interesting for software developers. So first, get very concrete. Tell them what are the things that they get to do every single day. So, what are those? How does a normal day in your company look like? Very concrete, as concrete as you can make it. Tell them about the people. So who do they get to work with? Sometimes this can be your greatest selling point. So let's say like your founding team is super experienced in the gaming industry. You tell them that, hey, we have this experience, we're working with these people. Maybe add a link to their LinkedIn profile or whatever. So, when someone is checking out this opportunity at your company, they can really see like who would they get to work with. Thirdly, as said, clarify and make sure that your impact is visible for the developers as well. So if you are changing the world, or I don't know, saving the whales or whatever you're doing, just make sure that that's very visible for everyone. Fourthly, express or tell what is the tech that you're working with. What are the languages? What are the different technologies and solutions that you're using, as specific as you can be. Tell them about the startup perks. So if you have the stock options or whatever, you have like ownership of your own role and so on, tell about this. Also show them how they can grow with this role. So where can they be in 1.5 years if they join your company? Who and what can they be? Is there an opportunity to grow to become an architect or product owner or scrum master or whatever it is? Show them where they can be. Express the KPIs, so key performance indicators. So tell them what is expected of them. So what is the concrete? How do they know they have succeeded? And lastly, what is your unique offering? What is it that makes you and your company so unique that they want to join exactly your company? Great. And so let's talk a little bit about salary levels before we go into Q&A. First, when it comes to salaries, what I would like you to define first is what is your junior developer and what is your senior developer? So this means, is junior someone who can do the job independently, or is junior someone who can work with the senior but together? Is senior someone who can guide and teach others and mentor others, or is senior someone who can do the job very independently and build something close to architecture? Or is senior just someone who has like very deep knowledge of the like technology? A good example that my my colleague was telling me that is junior, this is just an example, is junior someone who can tie their shoelaces, and is senior someone who can solve very complex puzzles? So this is a good way of thinking about it. Think about something else, like something that you know very well. Let's say I'm a volleyball player. Is junior someone who knows how to do the basic serving, or is senior someone who can like really define what will be the attacking strategy? So something that like define your junior and senior really well. So these are the salary levels that we came up with. Obviously, there's quite a lot of variety, but these were like our conclusion on the data that we had. So for junior software developers right now, we're paying about 2,500 to 3,500, really depending quite a lot. Some of them even go overlapping a little bit towards 4,000, but that really depends also like what is the company's like description of junior and senior. For the mid-level software developers, we're paying about 3,500 to 4,500, and for senior software developers, anything for 4,500 to 6,000. If they have some skills that are very, very rare in Finland, they can be paid even more as a senior software developer. For mobile developers, again, we see a lot of variety. But the typical range would be from 4,000 to 6,500. and for the architect level people, 5,000 to 8,000 euros. Great. This is about the salary levels, and maybe now it's time to go for the Q&A, and I'll open the chat here again. So any questions you have, I'll try my best to answer. There are also things that I don't know, but I'm happy to share my opinion at least. So yeah, anyone, any questions at the moment? Yes, thank you so much, Jana, for this question. So do I think the next generation will change recruitment process in general and not only in IT sector? Yes, definitely. I do believe so. I think we're going to see, first of all, we're going to see a variety of different ways to work. So I feel like the gig economy is growing. So there will be for sure a lot more freelancers, because I feel like the next generation is also, their set of values and what they consider important is very different from the older generations. And even I feel like there's a big difference with people who were born 1990 to people who were born 2000. Like the 10 years was like a massive change. And they are obviously people who are less keen on just like committing to one employer. They probably more of them value the freedom that they can have. So they can, for example, they want to work as freelancers. They want to do shorter gigs in one company and then in another. They appreciate remote working opportunities a lot more. They want to travel the world, see the world, and they are maybe more impact driven as well. So it's very important to sell them the impact that your company is having. I think it's going to be, this is my opinion, so it's not based on it, like anything else than the articles that I read, but I think it's going to be harder to sell them companies, like very traditional companies with very traditional ways of working. So definitely there will be a lot more freedom and flexibility in terms of like freelancing and gig economy and so on. It has to be very value driven, I feel. So you need to really communicate your values and impact very clearly. But yeah, well, when it comes to also recruitment process, then obviously I think that we will see a big rise in defining that inbound recruitment strategies. So really providing those touch points for the candidates to feel and to see how it is to work in a certain company. I think there will be a lot more creative ways of working. There are also already some great like summer job campaigns that I've seen in Finland now that are, they invite people to, like students to come in to a hackathon into their office and to like hack some concrete problem. And those hackathons then, like, the people with creative solutions, they will get an offer to have a summer job in that company. So yeah, I think the job ad process is slowly dying. Any other questions? Yeah, so how corporations can compete with startups in this recruitment field, and are there anything beneficial for the big corporations compared to startups? Yes, for sure there are. So how corporations can compete is like, obviously corporations have one thing that a lot of startups don't have, especially the first stage or like very early stage startups, is employer brand. And this is also in good and in bad. But the thing that corporations have is like they are already known, and this is the one thing that I see that how they can really like stand out compared to startups. I also think that corporations have they typically have more resources, so they can really heavily invest in employer branding and recruitment marketing compared to a lot of startups. And what this means is that how I think employer branding should be built is that employer branding is just actually being very open and visible about what's going on in your company. So it all comes down to culture. Do you have the right culture that will attract those future generations, like you said, Jana, or then the target audience that you have, your talent persona? If you have that culture already in place, then what big corporations have is that they typically have a little bit more maybe money and resources to have that employer branding strategy that will be very visible about what's going on in the company. Then again, the hard thing is that if the culture is not right, if the culture is not very attractive for the talent persona, then we can't really focus on the recruitment efforts unless the culture is right and the culture is in place. So this means that you need to first see, do we have the right culture to attract the people we want to attract? And then if we have the right culture and we're a corporation, can we put more resources in being more visible, being more open, having the right strategy to show the target audience what we are doing? So it's, in a way, employer branding is very simple. It's just being very open and visible about the things you do. The harder part is that how you get this message through to the right talent persona. So not just anyone out there. Obviously, corporates or corporations, they do have a lot of benefits that startups don't have, and there are a lot of people who are very into working in corporations as well. But I think the corporations sometimes they're trying to compete for the same talent, and I think that when it comes to qualities of a person, startups should always be screening whether the person can tolerate stress and uncertainty, and what corporations should, corporates don't really need to put that much effort into seeing if the person can cope with a lot of stress and uncertainty. But what corporates then need to do is, if the person can actually handle maybe a bit more admin or maybe a bit more bureaucracy, which, even if the corporate is very flat and the organizational culture is very flat, there's for sure more bureaucracy in corporations than in startups, typically. So what corporations can do is that they can find the people who are looking for a little bit more stability, and what corporations typically can do is that they have better, for example, or more organized educational programs, or programs where people can develop their own skills, and they probably should promote these a bit more, especially for the newer generation. What are the learning opportunities in terms of what kind of pathways does our corporation offer? How can you develop in your role? Thank you. Any more questions? Oh, thank you, Jana. So if I would have one message for all the HR departments around the world, what would it be? Oh my God, that's a good question. For all the, okay, I'm gonna give it from a recruitment point of view. I would say that, oh my God, this is such a good question. I would say that recruitment is changing, and it's very easy for companies to be very innovative and stand out from the crowd right now if they set their recruitment efforts right. And as I said, the one thing that you need to remember from this webinar is communication. And I would just say that if you have the right communication, if you communicate with your candidates, so if you communicate with your candidates, okay, apparently there's some internet connection problem right now. All right, well, let's see if this works. It is fine now. Okay, great. So yeah, so recruitment is super crucial right now. It's changing a lot. And what I would like to say to all HR departments around the world is that set your recruitment practices right now, and you will definitely stand out from the crowd, and you will be able to be one of the most innovative recruiters in the future, because the talent shortage is coming to all talent groups, and that's why it's like focus on the recruitment, marketing, employer branding, having the right, lean, great communicative recruitment processes, and you will be remembered. I promise you. That's my message. Okay, there's time probably for one more question if anyone has anything now. Okay, I guess there are no more last questions. Then I just want to finish by saying thank you so much for attending. I hope you enjoyed this webinar and got something out of it, and we will be sending you the webinar notes soon. And I hope that all of you, if you're not yet connected with me, connect with me on LinkedIn, please. That would be great. And also, if you have any questions or anything that I could be of help with, please feel free to contact me. I'm super happy to talk about talent acquisition. I'm very passionate about it. So, you know, like let's go for a coffee or lunch or something, and we can discuss about recruitment related things. Great. Yeah, hey, thank you from my part, and I hope that you all have a great Thursday and great rest of the week, and have a nice weekend when it comes tomorrow.